Aloha kako. I'm Pono Ma'a, Executive Director of the Pauahi Foundation and the Director of Advancement here at Kamehameha Schools. Aloha. Thanks for joining us today on Keeping It Pono. We hope you're safe and doing well. We have Kyle Galdeira on our call today, and he is a 2003 graduate of Kamehameha Schools. He's the Senior Communications Specialist, and he was the actual originator of Keeping It Pono, and we're grateful to you for that. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Pretty good, Pono. Thanks for having me. It's been a great team effort so far, and it's great to be on the other side of the podcast. Normally, we started as a host, and now I'm the guest, so it's kind of come full circle. Thanks for having me.
Right on, Kyle. Thank you. Hey, as an alum, why don't you share about your KS journey and what led you back to KS?
Yeah, well, you mentioned I'm a 2003 grad, and during my time in high school, I actually got really involved in the Kamo'i journalism and student newspaper program, and also on the video production side of the house as far as KS Media went. So I really got a lot of great exposure there, and that kind of set me on my career path to where I'm at today. And being able to now work for Kamehameha Schools allows me to give back the same way that my kumu and some of the folks, the alumni that came before me, have been doing. So it brings me a lot of pride to be able to work for Kamehameha Schools and do some of these great things like this podcast.
I'm spot on, Kyle. And we're all grateful to Pauahi for her gift of education. How has that impacted you?
Well, I think it's huge because I know a lot of people get kind of caught up on, where did you graduate from and some of the credentials. But I think a great thing about Kamehameha Schools and being an alumni is that just the appreciation for Hawaiian culture and values coupled with a great education as far as your math, your English, your social studies, and just a great hybrid of all those different concepts, I think is something that is unique to Kamehameha Schools. And I think because of that education, it really set me up for success in my career now. So I'm very grateful for Pauahi, who's joining you in statue form today on the podcast.
Absolutely. Grateful for Pauahi and grateful for you, Kyle. Hey, when you started this idea of Kapiko broadcast and keeping it Pono, what's been the most surprising part of starting the podcast?
Well, it's been great because podcasting has been one of the trends in media that I think a lot of people are really trying to tap into. And I know you've mentioned it yourself with Keeping It Pono, is that a lot of different audience sectors have really been tuning in and giving you feedback about how they've really been engaged and enjoying what you've had to say. So I think just the feedback has been one of the great and surprising things about the podcast is just hearing from so many different people about their perspectives. And like we mentioned, we have the young audience all the way up to some of our kupuna tuning in and enjoying it. So some different media forms out there are really specific to different age groups, but I think podcasting allows you to reach a wide spectrum of audience members. So that's been a great thing about the podcast experience.
Well, we're grateful. We definitely have a wider range of audience now, thanks to you. How about the most interesting or favorite guest that you've had on your show so far?
Wow. Well, on Capico podcast, we've actually had 24 episodes so far over 2 years. So it's been a lot of different guests that we've had. And I think if I had to pick out a few, Dr. Evan Beachy is one of my favorites. He's a education systems and strategy kind of guy with education. He works at KS. Just a lot of great insight. Um, Keoho, the alumni music group that is doing great things in our music and education community. They joined me to talk about May Day 2 years ago. And recently, I actually got to catch up with Kamu Grugier Hill, who's a current linebacker with the Miami Dolphins. And I believe the team is undefeated since we had our podcast. So hopefully they can keep that run going as a former Super Bowl champion trying to bring a ring to Miami now.
I think you can take credit for that, Kyle. You
I'll
better
take
get
it.
it back on the show quick. How about your next interview? If you could pick anyone to interview, who would you pick to
Wow.
interview next?
I actually, and I'm kind of getting the ball rolling on this, and I know it's difficult because of all the political ties that we have to be careful of when we're dealing with everything we work on here at KS. But I actually wanted to touch up with somebody like Dr. Josh Green, who's our lieutenant governor, just because he did a really great sit down with some of our KS Kapalama seniors last year as part of our legislative breakfast. and actually talk to them about going into the medical profession. So just to get a catch up with him about some of the great things he's doing, trying to battle the pandemic we're in right now, and also just his appreciation for the great things that Kamehameha Schools does educationally, because he's a big advocate for the Native Hawaiian community. And I don't think a lot of the public gets to see that because they're so focused on, coronavirus pandemic, so I think just giving our audience a broader view of that would be great. So he's on my wish list for sure.
I'd agree with you. I always love watching him on the news, and you can really trust people like that. So I look forward to seeing that soon. With the holidays on us, anything you want to share with our KS Ohana?
Yeah, we actually have some, I guess you can call it breaking news here on the podcast. We're actually going to be doing a enterprise-wide Founders Day, just because we mentioned the coronavirus pandemic. A lot of people are being very careful with physical and social distancing. So what we decided to do this year is a web broadcast, which is different from past years where each campus would kind of do their own thing. We're actually combining to do one uh, singular broadcast this year, and you can check out www.ksbe.edu/Founders Day. Get all your information there, and it's going to be this year. Even though Founders Day is on December 19th, that actually falls on a Saturday this year. So we're going to observe Founders Day on Friday, December 18th, and that broadcast will start at 10 a.m. So make sure to check out the website and join us on the 18th, because it's going to be a probably once in a lifetime experience having everybody in this same virtual space to honor our Keali'i Pauahi.
That's awesome, Kyle. We definitely got to get the word out. And thanks again to you for starting the podcast for us, and for being our first alumni guest. It's nice being on the other side of the table. Make sure you folks tune in next time. Next month, we're going to have Monty McCumber, class of 1994, who's a cultural director down at Helumor, the Royal Hawaiian Shopping Center. So for Kyle Galdeira, I'm Pono Ma'a, and take good care. Aloha.
Aloha.